Welcome, Supplier Gateway community. We are here today to talk to you about the impact of AI in procurement. We're going to start off with introductions. I am the Senior Director of Product, Process, and Data at the largest privately held company, Cargill Incorporated. I've been at Cargill and in procurement for over 20 years, through lots of transformation, and excited to talk to you today about one of the largest transformations of all time, artificial intelligence. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Hilgenkamp.
And hello, everyone. My name is Avonda Anderson, and I am the founder of SupplyRLink, LLC, and creator of Bonnie, our AI-powered procurement assistant. And I come from a background of over a decade of procurement and supplier management experience for organizations across industries, from Fortune 500 companies like Wells Fargo, ADM, and Sports and Entertainment, Golden State Warriors. Throughout my career, I've also seen firsthand how critical, procurement is in managing not just costs, but risk, compliance, and business resilience. And I've also seen how procurement teams are stuck closing highly manual work and chasing documents and gathering approvals and all the other, manual things that we do with fragmented vendor data. And so all that while, again, trying to protect sensitive data. So that's the part of what inspired me to build my AI, Bonnie, and looking forward to talking to you more about that as we dive into the impact of procurement today.
Awesome. I think we could say that AI and procurement is a rich playground for AI to introduce itself. And when you're dealing with numbers and people, technology, and process, this is where we're going to see a lot of transformation of artificial intelligence just happening at warp speed. But we're going to tell you, we're going to get real a bit about what's happening and what we're seeing in procurement in our industries, and hopefully you'll find some great information that you can take back into your companies and businesses. So I'm going to start to talk from the lens of the enterprise, the big, large corporate enterprises that we work within. And I'm going to talk to you first about two segments. First segment is around introducing artificial intelligence into your ecosystem of your company, whether that be small or large. But there is a lot out there these days around artificial intelligence that's a bit scarier than what we've seen in the past around when we introduced cell phones, when we introduced the internet. But we are also seeing artificial intelligence be adopted at warp speed in a shorter amount of time than technologies of the past. But then you hear some of those scary stories. And so the first thing I really want to talk to everyone about today is how to introduce it responsibly within your organization. There are people at your organization that are going to use it. They're using it at their homes and in their personal lives, and they're going to bring it into their workplaces. And this is where you want to be very forthright with your organization of what your organization's policies are and how you advocate for AI in your workplace, so that individuals that use AI can feel good about using it at work, because they will. That is in their trajectory, is that it will become part of everyone's work. And so how you want to get in front of that as soon as possible is a bit up to you in a way that you can introduce it that makes it a really healthy transition for the human. So we love human in the loop, and we want humans in the loop, but we want the humans to come into the loop. We don't want them to do AI in the shadow. We want to help them to understand that they can utilize AI in their work, and it's okay. So really what you want to do is you want to get to the top position of the house, whether that be the owner, the CEO, your divisional leader, your senior director, and you want to talk about it at work and say, hey, there's great information, whatever you introduce, whatever chosen AI that you're looking to introduce from a generative AI perspective, you want to give them the permission to utilize it at work within the guidelines and regulations that your company is looking to introduce. But you have to introduce it from the leadership. You have to get a position so that your team understands how it will be used, how they can interact with it. And that what are there's two big fears I'm seeing out there. One is, will I lose my job to AI? So you want to address that candidly with your organization. And then there's the fear of missing out, which is like, well, let's go faster and I don't want to miss out. I want to be on the cutting edge, et cetera. So you really want to address what your roadmap, how you're going to introduce it in your organization and make people feel good about what that direction is, whatever that direction you choose it to be. But you do want it to be candid and bring that information into them as soon as possible, because again, they're already using it at work, and there's lots of great things that can be capitalized on. And so you want to take advantage of what that can do for your company. So first and foremost, I really wanted to talk about when you're working with large teams is the way to address them. This is great to bring in what is available to them, how to utilize what is available in a responsible way, meaning let's not put our company information out if that's not what we're looking to do. If we don't have a segmented LLM to be able to do that, let's make sure that we're not putting address and personal information, customer information, supplier pricing. Let's make sure that we understand how to utilize generative AI in a responsible way. And when you do that, when you start to use the chosen generative AI tool for your organization, you're going to definitely see an efficiency within your team immediately, which we love. We love to see that, where they're going to get faster information. They're going to spend less time researching. They're going to be able to find facts. And by the way, fact check the facts quicker instead of the time that it has taken them in the past to find the market intelligence, to find some of the risk profiles, to find the supplier, quite frankly, or the part that's needed for their day-to-day. So we definitely see Gen AI as an efficiency boost just right out of the gate. But then it gets to what happens next. And what we're seeing that happens next in my organization is everyone wants to go to automation and all the agents and chatbots and all the great things that we could utilize AI for, where it becomes your negotiator of your contract and where it can, find all of the loopholes and all of the data that you might be blind or might be missing in your day-to-day. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And so I encourage that you get everyone involved in utilizing Gen AI. Then when you go to look at what's next for your organization in procurement, then you really have to say, is my organization and my fundamentals foundationally sound? I'm going to explain what that means in 3 areas of foundationally sound. And this isn't unlike any other application that we've brought in from a technology perspective into your organization. I know that if you've deployed any technology, you run up against 3 things. One is process. Is your process ready for the technology? Do you have a standard process? Is it documented? Is it executed as it is intended? Because when you start to bring in any technology, if your process is not standard, you're not going to get the return on investment. And that's really where getting ready, being AI readiness comes into play when you're talking big enterprise, when you're wanting to leverage what you hear of all the best percentages that are out there that AI has taken over my sales force. They've been able to do my marketing for me, et cetera. It doesn't, you just can't in procurement move like some of those other domains that you're seeing, like marketing, like sales, in procurement, unless you have a good process. Clean data is number 2. Clean data is number 2. So if you put garbage into the AI and you want to automate it, you're automating garbage, right? So you really need to make sure, and procurement runs off facts and figures, numbers, parts, the alpha, numeric, lots of information going into it. Then with the market intelligence of what's happening in the industry, and trying to put that entire recipe together. And when you put that recipe together, if you're putting bad ingredients into it, then your cake's not going to turn out. It's going to flop. And so if you really want to take an audit of what you're going to utilize the automation for when you go to deploy AI automation, and say, will it be able to discern the data in a way that it can identify and do what we want it to do to execute against that data in an automated way? So if your master data is kind of, all over the place, you have 10 parts numbers for the same part, the AI is not going to know the difference, that there is 10 part numbers for the same part, unless you have your data structured with really good master data governance and rules. And so really think about those things that you enter into automation in procurement. You need a good vendor master base. You need good materials and services that you're looking to procure against. And then you need good contracting and pricing terms. And when you have good data, those data sets that I've just talked about, and you introduce that into AI, then you're going to be able to see a return on investment. But so many people are wanting to go from the fear of missing out, and they buy the AI tool, they buy the application, et cetera, and they're not ready because what they have is disparate processes, which I talked about first, disparate non-clean good data to put into it. And then the third thing I would say would be the knowledge base that you use, where AI can come, you can mirror the greatest LLMs out there with all the histories of the best thought leaders and research, et cetera, against your company's data. And you can kind of put those together, and you can do some assessments against your company's data. But if your data in your company is all over the place and you don't have a good knowledge management, then you're not going to be able to leverage that use case of bringing in your company information against what the LLMs are bringing from the outside, and complement those two things together. So I've seen this time and time again, people wanting to say, hey, we could do this because they saw a great demo of what AI can do. And AI can do a ton of great things when it comes to automation. You could even have individuals in your organization that you're managing agents instead of employees at some point, but you can't get to any of that automation unless you have good standard processes that are followed and executed as written, to good, clean data elements. And we just talked about a ton of data elements that go into the procurement process. And 3 is a knowledge management, so that when you want to introduce that company knowledge, that it's in a place that it can be recognized and not sitting all over, because the AI is not going to be able to find it and have it available to bounce it up against some of the best large language models that are out there. And so we're not seeing the return on investment that is being promised by AI, quite frankly, out there in the industry. You see it all over unless you have that foundation set. And that is not glamorous work. It takes a ton of time to get prepared. I call it AI readiness, and that's the first advice that I give to any procurement organization that's looking to utilize AI. And some of the most groundbreaking use cases of agents and agentic AI, et cetera, is to get yourself ready first. Get yourself ready first, because then you can start to bring AI in against a small use case and prove it out, and then scale it over time. And that's truly the way that I feel, based on looking at a lot of different use cases. And they seemed really good in the first pass. And I was like, let's go do this, to find out that when we did the pilot, it just wasn't, the data wasn't in a way that it gave us the ROI. So then we had to stop the pilot, go back, clean up the data, clean up the process, get the knowledge put together before we could then move forward. So do yourself a favor. Think AI is not going to be a magician over what of your foundational run operations. It can't take, years of bad data or disparate processes or knowledge, and it can't make magic out of them. But it can take what you have, and it can make magic And you can get a good return on investment if you're doing the unglamorous work first to prepare for the sexy artificial intelligence that does not exist out there, because procurement is, again, a really great ripe playground for AI to really present itself. We're going to see it change our procurement industry. I know we are, and we will see it change faster if we think about what we can do to prepare for it. And so it really is around, two things that I'm going to leave you with, and then I'm going to turn it over to Avonda to talk to you about some of the great use cases that she's seen. But what I'm going to tell you is that you don't discount the change management of the people. It's not just about technology. No technology exists without people. If people are not ready for it, that's the first thing I talked about, is getting your team ready for it, having the conversation, helping them through the change curve and how AI will be used at your organization. And then number two, how you use it in procurement and how you can get to efficiency first fast through Gen AI, a quick, 5 to 10% efficiency. And then but you want more than that. And those are what you're seeing toted out in the industry, is big, big numbers. You're not going to get those big, big numbers. It's going to be completely snake oil unless you take the time to prepare yourself for artificial intelligence, to business ready your processes, your data, and your knowledge management. And that's what I'm going to leave you with today. And we're going to hear some really exciting things now from Avonda of those use cases and what you can expect once you do some of those things. Avonda, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nicole. That was amazing information. And thank you for setting the stage so well, because those are the things that I talk about when people come to me and they're looking for implementation. The first thing we work around is that data. Get your data together, get your processes together. And my company actually helps with some of that unglamorous due diligence that you talked about when you need to be preparing for your AI implementation, whatever that may look like for your org. And one of the most common concerns that I hear when talking about AI and procurement is around that privacy, and rightfully so. When you're managing sensitive data, contracts, like you stated, pricing and compliance obligations and everything like that, especially around introducing new technology, it really, raises a lot of questions of, where is my data going? Who can access it? Will we still be in control of that data? And these are real valid concerns that a lot of companies are hesitant still to implement AI around those things. And today I want to shift the conversation. Instead of viewing AI as this potential privacy risk, I want to show you how, when you build it intentionally, AI can actually strengthen your privacy and compliance and governance. It's really a tool now that can even help you with some of that practicality in securing that your data, and you can do it within your governance model. So before I jump into solution, like I said, I want to acknowledge the importance around that, because I hear it constantly, especially as these conversations around AI and procurement and supply chain become bigger. The risk about data loss and is really a concern that a lot of folks, again, that is the biggest challenge outside of being ready. How do we protect the data and strengthen our control over that information, because it's already spread out across these disparate systems and tools and everything. So I want to start with a real world example, right? You may recognize it from, imagine your department trying to hire a vendor, maybe a SaaS vendor, maybe a marketing consulting person. They may email, I don't know, again, the basic process I know for procurement is email. A lot of times our intake is through email, and maybe it gets logged into a spreadsheet, maybe not. Maybe finance is looped in, maybe they're not looped in until the end, maybe legal is looped in from the beginning, or maybe the contract gets signed outside of approvals, right? So meanwhile, this vendor sensitive data is tax IDs, financial certifications, insurance sometimes is now sitting in somebody's inbox in an attachment, scattered across these different systems with no tracking, no audit trail, and no centralized governance, right? And this is today how we're operating, and no one's talking about privacy. You see what I'm saying? So as it comes over to AI, that same conversation, how are we now so, sensitive to privacy when we're now having our information all over the place anyway? So I think we have to just take a look at how we're viewing it compared to how we're viewing this now and how we're using data. Even if we think it's internal, how secure is that data currently in our process? It's not so secure when we paint that picture that I just gave you. And so the request again comes in. We're going to finish this. It comes in if you're thinking about AI. Think about it from a point of the request comes in through a structured intake process powered by AI. It's classified correctly. Privacy fields are validated up front. The right approvals are triggered automatically, and that sensitive information never leaves your secure environment. And that's the shift I want to talk about today. From that chaotic, disparate way about going about procurement and risk, and thinking about control and compliance, especially around data, is because that's the main thing. When I built my AI agent, we didn't necessarily think about what she could do. We really wanted to see how we could protect the data and how we could build it so that the information, like you talked about, the LLM or the knowledge bank is within the client's environment and not outside sitting on some open chat TPG server. So modern AI tools like Bonnie, which is my AI agent, aren't external threats, right? They're internal enablers. Bonnie can work directly inside SharePoint, your databases, your vendor portals. If you're using Excel, she can link right into that. She can link right into your Outlook and help route certain things for emails or approvals or your Active Directory. Those are within your environment and your control, meaning the vendor data stays behind your firewalls, not floating around the third-party cloud. It's about bringing intelligence to where your data already lives and securely and compliantly get it under your terms, but centralize the data so that that data is ready, as you mentioned, Nicole, earlier in your conversation. And I always ask the question, does anyone feel like your current intake and approval processes could use more structure? And typically the answer is yes, right? And so that is where AI can come help even structuring that data. And at SupplyRLink, one of the things that I shifted out as I moved out of practicing at corporate procurement and moving into my own organization as a strategic consultant, we treat privacy as an afterthought, sometimes when we're thinking about procurement. That's just the nature of the thing, right? We're just trying to get our right price, the right time, and we're trying to keep that supply chain moving, right? And so sometimes privacy is the last thing that we're thinking about. But we really need to have that privacy first mindset, because that is what's really going to make or break how you implement your AI, because you don't want to be putting just all type of information out there. You want to make sure that what information do you really need access to? And procurement, like you said, we need facts. We're facts and figures. But what facts and figures, right? What data is really going to be important for procurement to really thrive and really prove their value to the organization? And what does that look like? So we don't need to scrape systems, right? We don't need access to everything and exposing unnecessary data exposures. We don't need that. So Bonnie, when we think about implementation, we work with our customers. We really try to guide you through this structured vendor intake. So having an intake form that is very structured on, here is the key pieces of information that procurement's going to need in order for them to do their job. Either go source a new supplier, go renew a contract, negotiate, get legal, finance, and everyone involved. All while ensuring the consistent approach to your procurement process is met, and making sure that core vendor data inside your environment is secure, even through that intake process and managing that. So, AI in this instance can actually really, really help with that automation, that structure, and move that data from place to place, from approval to approval, more securely than we would be able to do it if we were doing it manually. I know every time when I need to send a follow up, it's a cringe. If I have AI to send those follow ups and set that at automated, I could go out and now I could be doing other things instead of bogged down chasing around approvals and some of the other things that we do at procurement. So I want to kind of take you through some real day to day procurement use cases that we've seen over the course of us implementing AI into some organizations. So, vendor intake automation, that's the biggest one. Business users submit a vendor request through a secured form, and our AI helps with that missing privacy, that critical information like IDs, certifications, before moving forward. So a lot of times procurement is looking for that information, but it's like, who has it? Where does it live? And it's a lot of back and forth emails and some things that can expose unnecessary data risks there. So having it securely within your AI ensures that it's taken from the beginning, from the business, whoever submitting that request, even if it's your suppliers, because you can even have it the supplier facing the supplier portal that can gather that information. AI can then flag and trigger cybersecurity concerns. So you can even do your cyber assessments all within your intake. Now, speeding up the process for that, vendor engagement to flow a little bit better. You can capture ESG. You can get all of this information and structure it, put it in an AI. And then if you're using a platform like mine, I also have a vendor management platform called Supplier.ai, where the AI agent would actually feed this data. So now you can have dashboards, insights, and all this data at your availability to be able to see exactly what the supplier information is at any given point. Now you're not looking through spreadsheets trying to find information. You don't have to reach out to the supplier. You can really start gathering that data integrity that you mentioned earlier, which is so, so key. And AI can help you structure all of that data and centralize it into one place so that procurement actually has a workspace, that we get out of these spreadsheets, but actually a workspace for our data and making sure that it is tracked properly. Some other instances around, renewing contracts, again, negotiation. Some of these AI agents are getting so sophisticated where they can actually help you negotiate contracts. They can read, extrapolate, redline documents, and even keep it again within the framework and with your supplier in real time. You could be redlining documents. So again, speeding up that ROI or that value output that procurement is known for, AI can actually enhance that and increase that and make and give the procurement ability to make those decisions even a lot quicker with a lot more information at their fingertips, because now they don't have to go out and search all these different systems for this data. It's all centralized for them. So the key takeaway I want to talk about is you're not losing control of your data by incorporating AI, but you're gaining control of it, right? You're actually going to gain control of your data. You're going to gain control of your processes. If something's automated, it's easier for adoption. It's easier for adoption. Change management is a lot easier because now there is a simple process. A lot of the time, I had when I was practicing, my business will come to me and they was like, well, this is my first time working with procurement. I don't know what to do. There's not a standardization sometimes. There's not a documented process sometimes. So allowing AI to help with that is going to really be key for a lot of these organizations, especially large organizations that have in the past these big amounts of supplier data. And then how can we help you structure that information so that it's not siloed, is working together. Now you can get volumes of scale it just helps procurement so much in the way that we do our job. The more information that we have, the better we're able to strategize and put some of these category management strategies in place. And so I want to leave you with a few things. When done right, AI, again, is not a privacy risk. It's a privacy enhancer. It's a partner that can strengthen procurement process, protect your sensitive data, enforce governance, which is key, and frees up your team to focus on higher value work, which is that strategy, which they can actually prepare for a negotiation. All those things that procurement always doesn't have the time to do. AI can alleviate that administrative burden on procurement and free them up to do what they're meant to do, which is that strategy, core work of getting the right products for the right price at the right time. And with that, Bonnie is again our AI agent, and you can get smart vendor intake, classification, risk triggering, early risk detection, which is key, approval routing, policy enforcement, renewal contract tracking, spend categorization, opportunity identification. AI can even help you look at your spend and tell you where you can go and save money. Supplier performance monitoring, SLA tracking. Are you getting credits? All of those type of things, and data gap identification and cleanup. So if you're missing data, on suppliers, AI can even help you recommend, and oftentimes databases, if you are present any fourth party data providing information, it can do so many things. So when we talk about using AI in procurement, we're not just talking about replacing judgment. As we know, we still need a human body to even input the prompts into AI to know what to do. And we're pulling information into these risky environments. You can keep everything in your, in your looped environment, closed looped environment behind your firewalls, as I talked about earlier. But we're talking about that smarter vendor intake, faster faster risk mitigation, better approval routing and tracking, and that proactive renewal approach that procurement desperately needs to get from that reactive to more proactive and performance tracking, all while keeping your data where it belongs, securely under your control. So those are some of the real life use cases, some of the things that I've come across, especially around data and privacy, and how AI can really enhance that. Instead of looking at it as this big risk, it actually can help you manage your data even more securely than you've already are thinking about now. So AI has some really cool things that are happening. I'm excited to be at the forefront of developing some of those things. So if anyone is out there looking for some strategies, some help at implementing AI and how it would look in your organization, please feel free to reach out to me at supplierlink.com or email me directly. I'm sure our information will be somewhere here. But yeah, I turn it over to you, Nicole, if you have anything additional to add.
No, that was a great, you just scratched what I'm saying, Avonda, as the surface of some of the use cases in the procurement playground, and where we spend just so much of our time dealing with administrative burden and not thinking and being able to leverage the strategic part of what we do that so well, and what AI can do to harness, control, and with quality, put the information at the human's fingertip so that you really can do twice as much as you used to do in the past, because you're not having to gather, you're not having to analyze, you're not having to do any of those things on your own. So it's really magnifies the data that's available to the procurement professional, and then it helps it to put it into the right, anything, approval workflow, getting that. You need so much input into the process. I always say that there's 4 key players in procurement, which is your procurement professional, your supplier base, your business base, and your finance team. And that's just, source to pay. You can continue the end-to-end process of, the demand planning coming into procurement, the forecasting, the budgeting, so many other areas of that process And it just is, artificial intelligence must be in our future, must be, is in our future. It will be in your future if you choose it, but you have to choose it. You have to be the one that's really talking about it in your company, with your executives, with your team members, and determining how to harness it, because it definitely, again, procurement is one of the most ripest use cases for artificial intelligence to change the industry. So great call outs. I love all of your examples of how you're using your Bonnie and everything, dealing with supplier and control and risk, and just some great use cases to bring forward. And for our audience to understand then how to take people, process, and technology together and just be one powerful source within procurement. So it was great being here with you, Avonda. Our contact information will be shared, and great discussion for today.
Yep. Thank you so much. Had a great time talking with you as well.